Buddha was a great sage who lived thousands of years ago. He preached the message of enlightenment, also known as nirvana, to all beings. The message of enlightenment is to abandon all attachments and grasp the reality of mind and no self. This is also the ultimate goal of all human beings. Buddha's journey of enlightenment began when he realized that all his suffering, including physical pain, emotional distress, and the suffering of others, was caused by his ignorance of the truth. Buddha realized that to find peace and happiness, he needed to leave his palace in search of enlightenment by going on a meditation journey. For the next 8 years, he wandered through many villages and towns, preaching his teachings and spreading peace and happiness. However, he never found the answer to his quest. One day, as he was traveling through a forest, he saw a young boy playing with a dog. The boy looked up to Buddha and asked, "O holy man, what do you want from me?" Buddha replied, "I want you to find happiness and peace in your life." The boy replied, "O holy man, how can I find happiness when I don't know what it is?" Buddha replied, "Happiness is not something that you can find. It is an inner state of mind. You must cultivate a mindset of happiness." The boy asked, "Then how can I find peace in my life when there is so much evil and suffering in the world?" Buddha replied, "Peace comes from within. You must train your mind to see the world with equanimity and compassion." The boy said, "Thank you, holy man. I will try to cultivate happiness and peace within myself." And with that, the boy turned and ran home, leaving Buddha alone in the forest. For the next few days, Buddha remained in the forest, meditating and reflecting on his teachings. He realized that he had been searching for something that was already within him. He had been looking for happiness and peace in the wrong places. Buddha traveled extensively, preaching the teachings of nonviolence and wisdom to all who would listen. One day, as Buddha was walking through a dense forest, he saw a group of monks who were busy chopping down trees. He asked them why they were doing this, and they replied that they needed the wood for their monastery. Buddha replied, "Neither you nor I need any wood. Let the trees grow back." Soon after this, Buddha saw a group of people who were being oppressed by a cruel king. He asked them if they would like to join him in his rebellion against the king. They replied that they would love to, but they did not know how to start a rebellion. Buddha said, "I will lead you in the right path." Buddha's message of nonviolence and wisdom began to take root, and many people began to come to him for guidance. But he knew that he still had much to learn before he could achieve enlightenment. One day, while meditating in a cave, he experienced a sudden enlightenment. He saw himself as a suffering soul, and he realized that all suffering was caused by the ignorance and attachments that held people back from true happiness. Buddha's message of enlightenment spread far and wide, and many people came to him for guidance. He preached the teachings of compassion, tolerance, and wisdom, and his influence can still be felt today. Buddha's journey to enlightenment took many years, but he never lost sight of his goal. He knew that true happiness came from within, and that it was up to each individual to find it. Buddha once went on a pilgrimage to the forest to meditate and achieve enlightenment. During his meditation, he experienced a sudden insight into the nature of reality. He realized that there was no self to be enlightened or transcended, and that all phenomena, including himself, were merely temporary and transitory. This realization came as a bolt of lightning in the darkness of his mind. He had always thought that there was a self, that he was separate from the world, but now he knew that that was a delusion. He saw that all beings, including himself, were part of a universal consciousness that transcended all separation. Enlightenment was a traumatic experience for Buddha. He knew that he had to communicate this new knowledge to others in order to help them escape the suffering caused by the cycle of birth, aging, and death. So he returned to the city and began to teach his fellow men the truth that he had discovered. The people who listened to Buddha were skeptical at first. They had all grown up believing in gods and goddesses, and they couldn't imagine that there was no one supreme to worship. But Buddha was patient and persistent. He explained to them that the gods they had known all had their own limitations and that they could never satisfy their desires. Finally, after many years of teaching, Buddha's message began to take hold. People began to see the truth in what he was saying, and many of them realized that they too had been living in the darkness of their minds, seeking something that was really not there. When Buddha realized that he had achieved enlightenment, he went back to the forest to stay. He knew that there were still many people who needed to be helped, and he was determined to continue his mission of enlightenment until the end of time. In the end, Buddha's message became the basis of all major religions. It taught us that all of our suffering and conflict can be solved if we realize that there is no separate self to which we owe obedience or devotion. Instead, we are all part of a vast interconnected network of consciousness that transcends all division and separation. After a long and fruitful life of meditation and teaching, he realized the truth of existence, which is known as anatta or non-self, and the self or mental object that creates our experiences, which is known as Mara. Enlightenment is the complete cessation of the changeable mental activities that comprise the nature of consciousness. When our mind is no longer subject to the flow of consciousness that arises and passes away, then that point in time is considered as the point of enlightenment. Buddha said, "I have seen the truth that creates all things, and I have seen that truth is not subject to creation." When Buddha attained enlightenment, he saw that all mental and material phenomena that we experience are actually illusions and do not have a permanent basis. Buddha also said that when our minds are free from the craving for attachments to form, sensations, perceptions, and the like, that is called nirvana or the state of ultimate peace. Buddha's teachings have guided people towards enlightenment, and he is revered as the founder of Buddhism. Buddhism has a code of ethics that teaches people to lead a peaceful and compassionate life. The message of love is one of the most important and fundamental teachings of Buddhism, and it underpins everything else that the Buddha taught. The Buddha himself was known for his love for all living beings, and this love was a fundamental aspect of his character. He taught that all living beings, including ourselves, are interconnected and interdependent. We are all part of the same family, and we need to treat each other with kindness, compassion, and understanding. The message of love in Buddhism is about seeing things as they really are, rather than as we would like them to be. It is about accepting others for who they are, without judgment or criticism. It is about understanding that everyone has their own journey, and that we should respect and support each other's path. The message of love in Buddhism is also about cultivating positive qualities in ourselves, such as compassion, empathy, and gratitude. These qualities help us to develop a sense of harmony and balance in our lives, and they help us to connect with others in a deeper and more meaningful way. In short, the message of love in Buddhism is about developing a sense of compassion and empathy for all living beings, and about living our lives in a way that is kind, gentle, and loving. It is about seeing the world in a new light, and about making a positive impact on the lives of others. In closing, I would like to share with you a quote from the Buddha that perfectly captures the essence of the message of love. Being kind to others is like painting a perfect picture. The brush strokes themselves are impermanent, but the result, a beautiful painting, endures forever. Thank you for joining me in this discussion on the message of love, and I hope that you have found it helpful and inspiring.